Hello and welcome to this webinar on the role of video KYC in digital onboarding and ongoing due diligence, presented by Fintech Advisory Services and the Asian Bankers Association. I'm Arpita Bedekar from Fintech, and it's my privilege to be your host today. At the outset, let me thank the Asian Bankers Association for their continued support for this webinar series, which is now in its fourth year. Once again, we have over 1,000 participants from more than 45 countries on this webinar. We are grateful to each and every one of you for sparing the time to join us today. The topic of today's webinar, digital onboarding and more particularly video KYC, has gained a lot of prominence, especially since the pandemic struck in 2020. In July 2021, the Financial Action Task Force, or the FATF, published a report on the opportunities and challenges of new technologies for AML-CFT. And that report identified digital solutions for onboarding and customer due diligence as one of the technology areas which has the potential to make AML-CFT faster, cheaper, and more effective. However, even before the release of the FATF report, many regulators around the world had started putting in place regulatory frameworks for digital onboarding and video KYC. And it was a trend that intensified in the last 2 years owing to the pandemic, the disruptions that followed the pandemic, and the massive spurt in digital banking and online transactions. Today, we have an experienced set of panelists, and we will speak to them about their experiences in setting up video KYC at their respective organizations, the benefits and challenges that they have seen, regulatory expectations in their countries, their sectors, the associated risks, and so on. We will take questions from the audience towards the end, so please enter your questions for the panelists on the Q&A box at the bottom of your Zoom window. So let me introduce today's expert panel. It's going to be in alphabetical order, starting with Aarti Shekhar, Chief Compliance Officer, Kotak Mahindra Prime Limited, India. Aarti has 22 years of experience in BFSI with specialization in governance, risk, and compliance, and she's part of the Kotak Mahindra Group since 2012. Prior to moving to Kotak Mahindra Prime, which is a finance company, Aarti was with Kotak Mahindra Bank's compliance team. She was the principal officer responsible for the overall supervision of the AML cell at the bank. Aarti is a chartered accountant. She holds a master's degree in commerce from the University of Madras. She's also a certified internal auditor from the Institute of Internal Auditors, USA. Aarti, many thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, Arpita.
Next, we have Raffi Wisesa, AML-CFT head at Bank OCBC NISP Indonesia. Raffi joined NISP as MDB Batch 2, moving through various roles within the company, including the AML-CFT working group at OCBC NISP. He rejoined OCBC after working with a few other financial institutions, and he currently heads the AML-CFT department at OCBC NISP. Raffi accomplished his bachelor's degree in law from Universitas Diponegoro in Indonesia. Raffi, it's great to have you also on the webinar.
Hi, Arpita. Thank you for having me. It's a great opportunity.
Welcome. Next, we have Sanjay Pant, Chief Risk Officer and Head of Conduct, Financial Crime and Compliance, Standard Chartered Bank from Nepal. Sanjay brings with him over 10 years of experience in audit and compliance. Before joining Standard Chartered Bank Nepal, he worked at the Nepal Rashtra Bank, which is the central bank of Nepal, and in other local banks. Within Standard Chartered Nepal, Sanjay has taken different roles over the years, including the country head of audit, compliance, and he's currently the Chief Risk Officer and Head of Conduct, Financial Crime and Compliance for SCB Nepal. He's also a certified chartered accountant from the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, and he holds an MBA degree from the Maastricht School of Management in the Netherlands. Sanjay, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you, Arpita.
Let me also introduce Vikas Gupta, Principal Compliance Officer, Canara HSBC Life Insurance. Vikas is a chartered accountant from the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India and comes with a rich experience of over 19 years in internal audit, risk and compliance roles across insurance, consulting, and banking domains. He's also a qualified certified information system auditor, and he has completed his certified public accountant USA professional examination. He has worked with reputed firms and corporates in the past, including ICICI Bank, KPMG, Ernst & Young, and ICICI Prudential Life Insurance. He has been with Canara HSBC for almost 9 years, and he's heading the compliance and internal audit functions of the company. Thank you so much, Vikas, for taking the time out to be here today.
Thanks, Arpita, for having me here.
So that's the panel today with us, representing practitioners across banking, financial services, insurance from 3 different countries. So I want to start by talking about the experience of implementing video KYC at their respective organizations and also more broadly in their industry, in their country. So if we can start with you, Aarti. Around 2 years ago, I think in Jan 2020, India's central bank, the Reserve Bank of India, allowed banks to onboard customers using video KYC. So for the benefit of the audience, can you explain how this method was different from the existing e-KYC or full KYC methods which were used earlier?
Right. So just to give a brief introduction, since we have a diverse audience here, we are all familiar with the traditional methods of onboarding customers. The customer walks into the branch, submits his proof of identity and address. The branch validates it, then it goes through the process of operations check, and then the customer's account is opened. So this typically would take a couple of days' time. And then a couple of years back, banks also in India started the eKYC authentication, which included the biometric authentication, which was considered a full KYC authentication. Then there was also the minimum KYC or the limited KYC account, which a customer could open using simply his Aadhaar linked mobile number. While this was very convenient, the limited KYC had some disadvantages because it was limited by the customer has not met the bank face to face. He has not visited the branch. And also the account had certain limitations in terms of the amount of transactions that he could do, and also in terms of validity of the account, which was typically 1 year, beyond which the account would either be closed or had to be converted to a full KYC account. In January 2020, RBI released the master direction permitting regulated entities to use video KYC as a method of onboarding. Ironically, or thankfully for banks, I must say, because this came just 2 months before the global lockdown, and it was a blessing in disguise for all regulated entities in the country. So with this video KYC, the entire process of onboarding a customer is contactless. It is completely digital and paperless. So I'm proudly to say Kotak Bank was the first bank in India which launched video KYC in May 2020, within 4 months of the circular coming up. So like I mentioned, this is contactless. So from a customer point of view, it is contactless, especially during the COVID time. He did not have to come and risk himself and visit the branch. It is completely convenient. He can do it from the comfort of his house. And finally, in terms of documentation, very minimal documentation. He just needed to produce his OVD, that is his Aadhaar in this case, as well as his PAN number and few other security checks, and a full-fledged savings account for the customer can be opened from the comfort of his house. So I think these were the benefits of the KYC and the video KYC.
Right. Aarti, as I understand, Kotak Mahindra didn't start with allowing video, or rather started with video re-KYC for existing customers.
Right.
Or rather only for new customers, I'm sorry.
Right.
Right. What was the rationale behind this? Was there?
Yeah, Pita. So when RBI first permitted video KYC in Jan 2020, it was permitted only for new customer onboarding. So that was the main reason why we could not use it for existing customers or for other use cases. But then in May 2021, RBI permitted 2 other use cases, which is conversion of the limited KYC account to a full KYC account, and also conversion of a wallet account to a full KYC account, and also for re-KYC. So now video KYC can be used for all these use cases.
I see. Thanks for clarifying that. So, Rafi, what is your experience in Indonesia? Is video KYC now a preferred way of opening accounts? And when did your bank start using video KYC?
Okay, thank you, Arpita. So basically, in terms of the regulations in Indonesia, our regulator, it's OJK, already stipulated the industry on implementing the video KYC since 2017. And internally for us, we have launched this video KYC since 2019. So to answer the the regulations, and also we want to serve the beyond banking customer experience to our customer. And I do agree with RT that we know that it's in pandemic situation where customers stay physical distancing. But since Indonesia is a big jurisdiction, yeah, we consist of 5 big islands, and not all banks in Indonesia jump into the digital banking onboarding. So in Indonesia, mostly around 90% of the banks are the retail banking, and I think around 20 to 30% they already shifting their onboarding model from the traditional one into the digital onboarding. But still, for the remote cities in Indonesia, we still have our physical presence. We still have our branches, and then we still conduct traditional banking model. Yeah, due to maybe the preferred way of our local residents, that they still need to go to the branch to put their money. So yeah, for most big cities in Indonesia, like in Jakarta, and then we also have some others big cities in Indonesia, yeah, the digital banking model already in place. And yeah, the millennials are the main target because they want the seamless way, and yeah, they want the convenience one to have the banking product and services. And
But like in India, are there any restrictions? Were there any restrictions along the way in terms of banking services for customers who are onboarded using video KYC, or you can onboard and you can do validation? Is it allowed for all sorts of services?
We allowed for all services, but first of all of customer must pass the ID and fee process from the whole CDD process. So the identifications, the completeness of information, the KYC, and then the verifications we put in place in the digital onboarding model. And then at the end of the process, yeah, we will validate all. We screen the customer, we double check the completeness of informations, we check the risk rating of the customer, and we conduct the face-to-face meeting through the video KYC to answer the right profile of the customer who want to onboard with us. And after that, so they can easily enjoy all of the product and services provided by the bank on the mobile banking or on our electronic channels.
Okay, thank you. Sanjay, coming to you, what has been the experience in Nepal? Was video KYC implemented due to the pandemic, or was it anyway on the regulator's radar? And does your bank use video KYC for onboarding and due diligence?
Yeah, thanks, Arpita. Just to give you a background, in terms of the regulatory requirements, it's more broader, I would say. Like, you can actually interpret whatever you actually want. They will simply tell you that you can have digital solutions in place for onboarding, right? But having said that, the way we actually interpret, I mean, the way that Nepali banks actually interpret, and also, because of the COVID impact, I mean, they were, some banks started using the video KYC. Having said that, still, it's actually picking up very slowly. I would say, like, there are only 2 or 3 banks who have actually onboarded clients using video KYC. But I would say, like, still, in my personal view, it's more about enhancing the client experience rather than looking at the key risks and mitigating those risks. So this is broadly, Arpita, is the kind of journey that we have in the country. Having said that, I think a couple of, I would say, hindrance to onboarding video KYC, which I generally see, is like, number one, like Rafi mentioned, it's also quite common in Nepal. Having said that, there are a lot of branches, in the countries, in the country. So having said that, you can always visit a brick and mortar branch and then have your accounts opened through the traditional mechanism. Having said that, for us, Standard Chartered Bank Nepal, we've actually not done our video KYC so far, but there are already plans in place to actually make that happen. Having said that, we are also looking into a lot of risks that we anticipate and the possible mitigants given the technology. Broadly, in my view, Arpita, I mean, the kind of technological support that we actually have in the country, I think that is the critical piece to really have video KYC, journey turn into a success. What I mean by that is like, you should have, first of all, there are two things that we look into very carefully. Number one is the documentation, right? And right now, our documentation, the national ID card is all manual, means it's not linked to a centralized database. So, the verification process becomes very, very difficult, right? Even though if you have a video KYC, and there's a risk of impersonation and so on and so forth. So having said that, I think as long as you are able to manage your documentation, if there's a central database, definitely it will, kick the dial in my view. Secondly, what I also think is like I mentioned earlier is, the kind of risks that we anticipate is it outpaces the benefits that we derive from video KYC, and therefore there could be a reason why banks are slowly adopting to the video KYC. And also, in my view, I mean, like I said earlier, the large, there are a number of branches in the country, and therefore that is one of the reasons why the clients actually prefer traditional onboarding rather than the video KYC. The other one, I think, like Rafi mentioned, the targets definitely would be like millennials. I mean, we have to have tech-savvy sort of clients to make video KYC a success, because even if you go for X generation sort of clients, definitely they are not going to appreciate video KYC to that extent that going to a physical branch and opening relationships is something that they always anticipate. So I think that's the kind of the updates that I have from a Nepal perspective.
Sure. There are some points in your remarks that we'll come back to later, right? But in the meantime, let me bring Vikas into the discussion. Vikas represents a life insurance company. So the insurance regulator in India, the Insurance Regulatory Development Authority, or IRDA, it allowed video KYC around the same time as the banking regulator did. And while COVID has been a catalyst for adoption of video KYC in the insurance industry, what has been your overall experience on video KYC versus the traditional way of onboarding insurance customers?
Thanks, Arpita, for the question. As basically we were discussing mostly about banking till now. So in India, the insurance industry basically is regulated, as mentioned by Arpita, is from IRDAI perspective. And overall, the regulations which basically take care of the whole financial services is PMLA, which is Prevention of Money Laundering Act 2002. Basically, from there, the enablement come, and initially RBI released the enabling circular for video KYC, followed by IRDAI. I think from a COVID perspective, as Aarti also said, it was a sort of right time to get into video KYC. It actually also, if you look from an insurance perspective, insurance is more a face-to-face product selling, because generally customers want to understand it's more of a complex product when they're investing for 10 years or longer period of time. So what happened, like the regulator was also initially not very comfortable for non-face-to-face selling, but definitely in the month of August, even our regulator came out with the non-face-to-face selling, and they have basically allowed to dispense away with the physical signature. And they said OTP, which you receive SMS from on your mobile, can also work, and that will be also sufficient. Or an email confirmation can be also constituted as a contract between a life insurance and the policyholders. And similarly, at the time of video KYC came in, and video KYC came in with the multiple benefits, especially I can say from an insurance perspective, because roughly a cost of doing a physical KYC turned out to be 500 rupees, Indian rupees. And it was becoming cheap up to 50 rupees or 100 rupees if you do a video KYC. One, it was cost effective. Second, if you look from an efficiency perspective, it was faster to do issuance. Third, from a customer availability perspective, because you can do a video KYC on the base time, mode, the instrument which the customer want to use and need not to be physically present. Fourth, from an insurance perspective, always you will find there's an agent in between who does the sale for you. So sometimes definitely there's a conflict of interest when the person try to collect the documents, there are chances of fraud and other things. So this also we find is a way to cut down on the frauds, because you're directly interacting with the customers. because your video KYC circular also wants to take a longitude and latitude of the customer, so you know exactly the location of the customer, which city, which pin code it resides. Because in insurance industry, there are a lot of pin codes which we bar. Okay, some of the pin codes we believe the fraudulent pin code, people create a cartel around it and try to defraud the company. So that also helped us. Secondly, especially IRDA and both RBI allowed the AI technologies to be used to know the liveliness check of the customers. So all those actually have really benefited the insurance industry in total. Till that time, the eKYC, which Aarti mentioned, eKYC is something, because I think the people are from varied countries. I just want to explain, India also started with a social security number called Aadhaar. And they have created a central database and they allowed to biometric or through OTP to perform the KYC or know your customer basically for the Indian regulated entities. So that was one which was there. It was initially for RBI regulated entities. It was available from 0 day, but it took a little bit of time to come to the insurance industry. And I think it came somewhere in late 2020-21. So in this time, it really helped us. And today also, if I see, video KYC helps us a lot, because definitely the Aadhaar database may not be updated with the right mobile numbers and other things. That's somewhere we found in 40% of our customers. But this is really a benefit for us. And I think we are moving as India, at least for digital KYC, which I can see very clearly.
Right. Thank you, Vikas. At this stage, before posing the next question to the panel, I'm going to bring in a quick audience poll. Karishma, if you could just run the first poll. We're trying to understand, assuming that your institution has already started, customer onboarding via video KYC or not. In the last 1 year, what proportion of your new customer accounts have been onboarded using video KYC? And there are some ranges there for you to answer. So it would be great if the audience can give us, a sense of what is happening around in their institution. So we'll give you all a few seconds to respond. And then maybe we can have a few quick comments on the responses from the panelists. So that's what the results suggest. 58% of the audience on this webinar have actually not started using video KYC, and less than 20% accounts, currently 17% institutions are taking in new accounts using video KYC. So any quick comments on that? Aarti, what do you think? I mean, I think some of the institutions in India are at the forefront of the use of video KYC. But we find that 58% within Asia are not actually using video KYC.
Right. So I think it's going to take some time to accept the idea of video KYC. There is a huge investment that is required by the financial institution, investment in technology as well as investment in training. So I think once they see the success of other banks, and especially large banks have already implemented this, and like Vikas said, even insurance entities have started to adopt this, I think we will see more adoption in the years to come.
Right. There was one sentence that Sanjay said in his remarks, which sort of stood out for me. He said that the risks for us don't justify putting in video KYC and its benefits. So Rafi, what do you think? I mean, is there a message that you would like to give to organizations that have not started, and what are the benefits that you see?
Yeah, okay. So this is a new initiative as part of the digital disruption, but I would rather to say that this is not a disruption. So this is an opportunity, since the development of new technology more faster than the F1 car. So and secondly, it's back again on how the bank set their risk appetite. So for retail bank, of course, the main focus of how we approach the customer through the various channels. As long as we can set the mitigation and control, of course, we will develop the technology. And what can I say right now in Indonesia? So the demand of the digital onboarding is getting higher. The increment, we see the increments due to the pandemic situations, but still from the point of view of regulator and the regulation itself, we also have to manage our risk because in the pandemic situations, the increment of the fraud cases, fraud onboarding is getting higher too. So this is the importance of how we can implement properly the digital onboarding. So it's not just how we interpret the regulations into the business process, but also how we can set the technology, how advanced we want to set. So, or we just want to validate the ID through interview with the customer, or we want also validate the ID with our government server. So in Indonesia right now, the government already provide the service. So we can tap into our government server to validate the ID of our citizens. And at the other side, we also have a third-party platform that they can provide us services, not only validate the ID, but also the face recognition technology, and then any other information that they have that we can use as a reliable sources to verify the true identity of our customer profile.
Right. Thank you, Rafi. Vikas, anything you would like to add from the insurance perspective to what Rafi said about the benefits being there?
See, so what are the benefits, at least in insurance industry, which I can see? One is onboarding. I think we have all spoken about onboarding, but we are talking about a servicing part also. So what we are trying to do is we're creating a digital hub or a digital journey for the policy servicing transactions. So just for the benefit of the audience, the policy servicing transaction in the insurance industry will be somebody wants to change the address, somebody wants to update a particular nominee, or basically a person wants to give a surrender or a free look request. Surrender is basically you want to take out the money. Free look, you want to basically cancel the policy, and partial withdrawal is something where you want to partially take out the money from the policy. So what happens currently, because what the regulation wants is your continuous KYC need to be done and due diligence of the customer need to be done. So sometimes we face a challenge in terms of authentication, identifying the customer. And especially if I talk about our company deals, like if you can see in my name, there's a Canara Bank, there's a HSBC. So we deal almost like 11,000 branches across India. And we have presence only in 50 locations as our company. Okay. So what happens, most of the company interact only with the bank branches, and we generally don't get time or in terms of meeting in the branches. So what this will help, the digital hub video KYC will help us to process the transaction quickly. And that will also take care of any impersonation, fraudulent intent, because at one particular point of time, life insurance industry did see surrender frauds, people impersonating themselves, opening fake accounts and all those things. So this actually comes as a benefit. And what other facilities which we are going to use, we've spoken about eKYC. In India also, we have a CKYC, the central KYC database built by the government of India. Then also the government of India has implemented something called DigiLocker, which all the KYC, all your relevant documents are digitally uploaded by the government basis the Aadhaar number, which is your social security number, on a digital space. So what they have done, they have also provided the access to the financial institution to DigiLocker so that they can directly access these documents which are certified by the government. So what I can see from India perspective, one, video KYC is one part of the whole digital journey, which we are seeing as a part of our evolution to a digital India, actually, from that perspective.
Right, thank you. Clearly, there's some success factors, critical success factors for this to really bring the benefit, and regulators play a very critical role in that, right? So how Sanjay, if I may come to you, how do you think what kind of help would you require from the regulator in your country to make the whole digital onboarding more effective? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, thanks, Arpita. I think number one would be like getting more clarity around the existing regulation. I mean, you have to grow more granular and make that understood by all the audience in the industry. So that, I think that's first and the foremost. But having said that, I think the critical piece over here is, if you want to make a video KYC a success, I think the best would be like to have the technological kind of a support, built in in the screening mechanism. What I mean to say is, like, when you do a video KYC, I think banks should actually invest there. Okay, so what I mean is, like, when you do a video KYC, you will have to have that, your technology will have to support when it starts reading your document, which has security features built into the security documents, and your technology will have to start reading that. Having said that, as long as we are able, and then you link that to your centralized database, as long as you are able to do that, I think it's the regulator who has to come up with the kind of centralized database, and the government bodies also partnering with the regulator. They have to come with a centralized database, and with the technology kind of a solution that you have, once you actually start reading the documents, the documents which have all the security features inbuilt, then you can actually link it to the central database, and then you can actually catch, okay, this individual who has actually subject to video KYC is not impersonating, or there's very little risk of fraud at this point. Like what Rafi mentioned earlier, definitely in the COVID era, you could also see like number of cases in terms of fraud, in terms of impersonation actually goes up, and that could be one of the reasons why the risks actually outpaces the benefits that we see. But having said that, we have to have that technology solution in place, and the central bank, along with that, the government bodies will have to come up clearly, defining this centralized database, and then banks should actually invest on technological solutions so that you can actually start reading that. Your mission has to start read the documents in place, and therefore you can manage the risk. That is what I feel, Arpita.
Right. Thank you, Sanjay. Aarti, coming to you, you mentioned earlier that Kotak was one of the pioneers, and that you managed to start the video KYC process within 4 months of the central bank circular. So, from a technology point of view, was this a very big learning curve for the compliance team? And how can you describe your journey to get there actually in 4 months?
Yes, thanks, Arpita. So from a technology point of view, like you rightly mentioned, there was an investment in technology, and there was a lot of learning and compliances that we had to ensure. For example, let me just explain. So one of the things that we have to do during the video KYC is a face match using artificial intelligence. And like Sanjay mentioned, they don't have the national registry available as a database, which we have here. Fortunately, there's a centralized UDI database which we can ping, and we can fetch the details from there. Similarly, for the income tax records, the PAN, again, we have an API we can pull and match the information. So that has been very helpful for the institutions in India. So we have used the face match technology. Then the details are also validated with the social security, that is the Aadhaar number. We also match the photograph of the customer with the national database. Then there are checks like liveliness checks that happen. So we check whether the video is not a pre-recorded video, or it's not some bot kind of thing, not a rigged video. So security questions are asked to the customer. It could be as simple as wave your hand, or it could be some questions like what is the PIN code of where you stay. So we have those kind of security questions. So this ensures the liveliness. Apart from that, like I think Vikas mentioned, we also do a geotagging of the customer location. And there are other checks like spoofing checks, etc. So I think all of these put together have really helped the bank to reduce dependence on a human eyeballing, which hitherto we had, and place more reliance on the technology-based checks. Which is also, helping to reduce the human operational risk, because there would always be misses from a human perspective. So I think that has, from a compliance perspective, again, there are a lot of regulations from RBI with respect to security audits, vulnerability testing, anti-spoofing checks, and this has to be done on a periodic basis. So I think it's very important for compliance teams to also come up this curve and to understand what are the IT risks behind this, and to make sure that we are meeting the regulatory requirements.
Right. Thanks a lot, Aarti. Rafi, what about you? Your, in your journey at the bank, what were the technology challenges, and how did the AML compliance team get up to speed on it?
Yeah. So I think in this current situation, I see it's a win-win solution for the bank and customer. So we keep follow the government health protocol due to the pandemic situations, and at the other side, we as a trust business, we create beyond banking experience to our customer, so they can easily and enjoy all of the bank's product and services from their home or wherever they are. But still, we have to set high standard of the control of the AML safety risk. And in Indonesia, we also have a regulation that are required by the OJK that before the launch of product and services, so basically we have 8 risks in terms of the risk management in banking industry, and one of it is compliance risk, including the AML safety risk. So we have to answer and we have to assess the reliability, the robustness of the technology before the launch of the product. So we as a risk owner, we as a subject matter expert need to assess very carefully on what is the business process, what kind of technology they use, are they engaging with the third party, or we just use a government server to tap for the ID validations. And at that moment, we as a compliance officer cannot use old style or old school analytical model. So we have also to speed our pace, and we have also to learn about what is the agile process, what is a digital business model in the banking industry. So we can hand in hand with our business owner to implement this digital banking. And going forward, there are also an opportunity for Bank Indonesia to conduct non-face-to-face model as long as we can comply with the requirement. So with the all requirement that already explained by the RT, Vikas, and also Sanjay on the specific requirement. So bank, if they can set the appetite, okay, we can run 2 models of digital banking. The first one with the video KYC with our video KYC agent, and the second one we can directly onboard our customers without face-to-face meeting on the digital environment.
See, Vikas, what about changing documentation or regulatory requirements? Are there any extra requirements which have come up from the IRD, and what do they look for when they come around for supervision?
So basically, when regulator generally in any country, when they come for supervision, audits, or inspection, they look whether the company is adhering to the regulations which have been released or basically issued by the regulator. So in this particular case, when I talk about the KYC or video KYC or digital KYC, what they see is basically whether the verification of the work performed by the authorized official of the company has been performed correctly. Secondly, they're like minute requirement that the video KYC has to be originated from the domain of the insurance company, not from the third parties. Because if you see most of the companies which currently they're using video KYC, these are the solutions which were developed by the new fintech companies, and they are basically adopted them in their environment. Third, definitely they do also check for, I think a lot of questions I can see from the geo mapping perspective, because definitely you need to be present within the jurisdiction of the regulator, which is India in this case, to basically complete the KYC. So this is the challenges. So record keeping increases, right? Because if you do a physical KYC, if you have a photocopy of say a PAN card, that is enough for the regulator to show. But in this case, there are 2-3 things which they focus more is your cybersecurity standards, because the data need to be kept secure. Second, in terms of all the recordings to be made available to the regulator for the purpose of inspection. So that definitely increases your capabilities to store so much of data. So, and third is definitely what they check is the adherence of the process or the regulation which they have laid down. So there are 3, you can say, increased supervision areas which the regulator look for.
Right. Thank you so much. I think let's close the discussion right now. It has been really fantastic, and I do believe a lot of practical experiences that all you panelists shared will be very useful for the audience. So once again, Vikas, Rafi, Aarti, Sanjay, many thanks for your time and for contributing those valuable insights on this webinar.
Yeah, thanks for having us here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Arpita. It was wonderful being part of this.
Thank you, Arpita.
Thank you.
Thank you, Arpita.
Thank you. Participants, thank you once again for being such a lively and enthusiastic audience. As always, I'm really sorry that we couldn't take all the questions. Fintellect is always there to support you and your organization if you need any further AML CFT training or advisory. So do look up fintech.com and fintech.academy, which is our repository of video courses for the range of our offerings. When you exit this webinar, there'll be a feedback survey which will be presented to you. So we welcome your comments, suggestions, which actually keep us going and which will help us to continue to improve this webinar series. So with that, I'm signing off on behalf of Team Fintech. Wish you all a great day and a great week ahead. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.